Hello there and welcome to the late news program coming to you live from Algiers. Next are the headlines. UN envoy to Libya points to alternative options if political bodies duck electoral pact. Also in our news, UN Security Council demands from Morocco to respect human rights and stop violations against the Sahrawi people. Coming up next as well, Zelensky admits the difficulty of launching counterattacks on the eastern front of Ukraine. Borrell judges Chinese plan insufficient to end the war, and Biden confirms that Beijing did not hand over weapons to Kiev. Also ahead, the French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin says protesters' demands are not a justification for violence, and French media reveals that at least one person was injured during the most violent day of protests. Hello again and welcome to the details. First in our news, UN envoy to Libya Abdoulaye Bathily is seeking to break Libya's long internal stalemate with an election this year to replace transitional political bodies that have long outlived their mandates. Here's Zahra Farjani with more.
UN envoy to Libya, Abdoulaye Bathily, warns if Libya's legislative bodies are unable to agree on electoral laws in a timely manner, alternative options will be considered. In an interview with Reuters on Friday, Bathily indicated he would not accept moves to derail a march to elections.
We have to deliver on this in a timely manner. Of course, if they don't do it, we will be accountable to the Libyan people, to the international community, to the regional leaders who are supporting them in this process. Of course, if they don't really deliver, we will look at what alternative will be found.
Bathily affirmed that many Libyans remain skeptical about the intentions of the House of Representatives and the Supreme Council of State, especially in light of the latter's delay in announcing the list of its members in the 6+6 committee, which will be in charge of drafting election laws.
Stakeholders I have been engaged have shown their skepticism about the capacity or the goodwill of HWR and the SCS to deliver on their mandates. Of course, this has to be taken into account, but they have given their words to the Libyan people. They are accountable to their words, to their commitments. They made pronouncement that they will put in place the 6+6 and deliver on it.
The UN envoy called the two council's members to put an end to the open mandate by organizing new elections.
You cannot say an open-ended legitimacy. This doesn't exist anywhere in the world, where a parliament is elected in an open-ended manner for an endless term. Here is the question of legitimacy for them. So it's a moral duty for them to renew their mandate, to go back to the electorate and to put their mandate on the table.
All Libyan parties affirmed their readiness to go to elections in order to put an end to the political stalemate, a situation that the UN envoy is working to overcome quickly and organize the first presidential election in the country's history.
Moving on, Tunisia's Coast Guard on Saturday retrieved the bodies of 9 illegal migrants who drowned off the coast of the country. This comes the day after Tunisian authorities announced at least 34 African migrants went missing on Friday after their boat sank. The 5th boat sinking accident in 2 days brings the total number of missing to 67 amid a sharp increase in the number of boat trips heading towards Italy. Tunisian National Guard confirmed the arrest of 56 boats heading towards Italy within 2 days and the detention of more than 3,000 immigrants, most of them from sub-Saharan African countries. Many countries called before the International Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, on the sidelines of the proceedings of the 52nd regular session for the necessity of immediate and rapid action to protect human rights in the occupied cities of Western Sahara and to work to stop Moroccan violations against Sahrawi civilians.
That recommendations concerning the promotion and protection of the human rights of the Sahrawi people have either been only partially accepted or simply noted. In particular, 5 recommendations calling for Morocco to enable the people of Western Sahara to exercise their right to self-determination and the right to control their natural resources have been rejected. Madam Vice President, the right to self-determination is fundamental to the enjoyment by the Sahrawi people of all civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. The resumption of the armed struggle in that territory, which no one could possibly have wanted, is the inevitable consequence of frustration and anger within a people unfairly and for too long denied their inalienable rights and freedoms.
My delegation further encourages Morocco to take the necessary steps that would enable the acceptance of recommendations partially noted, including South Africa's recommendation to, inter alia, and I quote, enhance cooperation with the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, including through urgently facilitating access by the OHCHR to visit the Western Sahara region and allowing access to Sahrawi political prisoners, end quote.
And in related news, Moroccan-European relations are facing a difficult challenge that tends, according to experts, to the point of tension due to the imminent expiry of the fishing agreement between Rabat and Brussels next July, with the possibility of its termination, given that the European Court of Justice previously declared it an illegal agreement since it includes lands not subject to the sovereignty of Morocco.
Spain tried to renegotiate the fishing protocol with Morocco, but there was no positive response from the community institutions because it would be another flagrant violation of the ruling issued in 2021. It is true that the court left the agreement in force pending the new decision, but it closed the door to any renegotiate.
Still with regional news, the Algerian Red Crescent sent to Mauritania 3 cargo planes loaded with 96 tons of food aid as an expression of Algeria's solidarity with Mauritania on the occasion of the holy month of Ramadan and in response to the ambition of the leaders of the 2 countries to strengthen relations between Algeria and Mauritania.
By order of the President of the Republic and the valuable aid of the People's National Army of Mauritanian brotherly country to distribute aid to the needy families on the occasion of this holy month. This initiative falls within the framework of the relations of solidarity, intensification and synergy between the 2 brotherly peoples and is derived from the values and teachings of our noble religion and also comes in line with good neighborly relations which unites our 2 brotherly countries. And through this process, Algeria renews its permanent standing and our absolute solidarity with brotherly and friendly countries based on our firm conviction of the need for cooperation and intensification in all circumstances and times.
To Palestine now, the town of Aram, north of the occupied Al-Quds, witnessed clashes between a number of Palestinians and the Zionist occupation forces, which resulted in injuries and suffocation. The Palestinian news agency stated that the confrontations began after the occupation soldiers stormed the town and set up a security barrier at its entrance, which provoked Palestinian youth and prompted them to enter into confrontations with the Zionist forces. Reports also stated that the Zionist forces fired live bullets, stun grenades, and tear gas at the Palestinian youth, which resulted in dozens of suffocation cases. The Yemeni Minister of Defense and Army Chief of Staff and the Governor of Taiz survived an attack that targeted their convoy on Saturday with a drone in Al-Qada area south of the city of Taiz. The attack resulted in the death of a soldier and the wounding of 3 others and caused the burning of a car, according to preliminary statistics, noting that the bombing led to the destruction of a number of military vehicles, including the armored car of the governor. To the Russia-Ukraine file now. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed that his country's forces cannot launch a counterattack in the eastern direction from Ukraine. Meanwhile, the European Union's Foreign Policy Commissioner, Josep Borrell, considers the Chinese peace plan to resolve the Ukrainian crisis as insufficient to end the conflict. Let's delve into details with Osama Ayadi in this report.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed the inability of his forces to start a counterattack in eastern Ukraine due to an acute shortage of weapons and ammunition, indicating that his country is still awaiting more military support from Western partners. These are the first statements after an inspection trip made by Zelensky to the eastern battlefronts in Bakhmut and the southern ones in Kherson, which threatens to postpone Ukraine's expected spring offensive, which the Ukrainian president had previously vowed.
We can't yet start the counterattack without US tanks, artillery and rocket launchers. We cannot send our brave soldiers to the front lines.
While Russia is betting on the delay and arrival of weapons to Ukraine to achieve greater progress on the ground, the Chinese peace plan, which was the focus of discussion between the Chinese and Russian presidents in Moscow, raises controversy. For his part, Josep Borrell, the European Union's Foreign Policy Commissioner, considered it insufficient to end the conflict.
Although the Chinese peace plan is not enough to end the conflict in Ukraine, it cannot be considered pro-Russian. It is important that Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow reduces the risk of a nuclear war, and for their part, the Chinese representatives made this very clear.
On the ground, Russian forces are tightening their grip on the Ukrainians inside the city of Bakhmut in the north, and continue their attacks on the city of Avdiivka, where they were able to fully control the town of Kamiinka, northeast of the city of Avdiivka, which is the last stronghold that was partially under the control of the Ukrainian forces in the northeastern part of the city.
Still with the same file, on Friday, the US President Joe Biden announced in Ottawa that China has not sent weapons to Russia since the start of the Russian special military operation in Ukraine. Let's take a listen.
Look, I don't take China lightly. I don't take Russia lightly. But I think we vastly exaggerate. I've been hearing now for the past 3 months about China is going to provide significant weapons to Russia, and they're going to... Well, I've been talking about that. They haven't yet. Doesn't mean they won't, but they haven't yet.
Still with developments in the European continent, French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin stated that the protest in the Saint-Solin region ended after a number of security personnel were injured, calling on the French political forces to play their role in organizing the demonstrations, stressing that the protesters' demands are not a justification for violence, and French media had revealed that at least one person was injured.
I want to solemnly call on the political leaders, all elected officials of the nation, whatever their political opinion of pension reform, for water reservoirs. This is, after all, a democratic debate, to condemn this extreme violence against the security forces of the Republic. I believe that no one can accept any excuses, no one can be silent, and no one cannot speak up when one is an elected representative of the Republic, when one is responsible for this extreme violence, which is totally and absolutely intolerable.
The British Public and Commercial Services Union announced that more than 3,000 British government employees from 4 departments will start a strike on the 11th of next April in protest against low wages. Therefore, the union's General Secretary Mark Sirotka said the employees were asking the government to hold important talks with them, including a decent pay raise. For its part, the syndicate ended that the move would include the Ministry of Environment and Food and the Ministry of Rural Affairs. Firefighters said on Saturday that they had stopped Spain's first major wildfire of the year from spreading further through the eastern Valencia region, where it destroyed more than 4,000 hectares of forest and forced 1,500 residents to abandon their homes. According to emergency services, more than 500 firefighters supported by 20 planes and helicopters were working to bring the blaze under control near the village of Villanueva de Beber in the Valencia region. And in different development, at least 24 people were killed when a tornado and powerful storms hit the U.S. state of Mississippi, according to local authorities. The outcome was confirmed by the State Emergency Management Authority, and numbers of deaths are expected to rise. It also added that at least 4 people are missing, in addition to dozens of injured, while tens of thousands of people in Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee are deprived of electricity.
To get ourselves into the middle part of the house, and we did, and we got in there, and obviously it was coming right behind us, because as soon as we got in there we heard a big boom and didn't hear anything else for a little while, so we walked out and then just came out to about 10 trees down in our yard.
To the festivity of Ramadan, people in Bangladesh are concerned over relentless inflation as the country witnessed a high food price during the holy month of Ramadan, which increased the troubles of citizens due to the consequences of the war in Ukraine and the decline in its foreign currency reserves in conjunction with a sharp swing in the value of local currency against the dollar. More with Salman Asib.
The holy month arrives in Bangladesh. And as each year during this sacred period, many Bangladeshis all gather to prepare for the breaking of their fast on the first day of Ramadan. At the most famous market in the capital Dhaka called Shok Bazar Iftar, the market is known for being packed, especially during this period, due to its reputation for low prices of goods compared to other markets. Nurul Islam, a loyal customer for the market for years, believes that this year commodity prices are quite high and no longer affordable for everyone compared to previous years.
Ramadan has begun. By the grace of Almighty, Muslims are fasting. Days will pass by, but commodity price is so high. Though wages remain the same as before, people struggle when they go to market. It's Ramadan, a month of kindness and Almighty. Days will pass by, but this is difficult for poor people like us.
As for the record rise in commodity prices in Bangladesh, this one is due to the country being seriously affected by the war in Ukraine, in conjunction with the decline in the value of the local currency against the dollar. These effects of high inflation have eventually made life for some locals even more difficult.
We regular people have nothing to do with the price hike. If government takes necessary steps to reduce the price, then sufferings of the people will be reduced.
In addition to the high inflation in Bangladesh, the country also suffers from a decline in foreign reserves, which amounted to $31 billion. This is the lowest level since the year 2017. Meanwhile, the inflation rate in Bangladesh has reached nearly 8%, a level that the country has not seen for a decade.
Similarly, Nigerians receive the month of Ramadan, receive the month of Ramadan, every year with warmth and joy, taking advantage of the days of the holy month in worship and racing to do good deeds, while being keen to perform their daily prayer in the desire to get closer to God and earn the reward.
Ramadan is very important for Muslims because when we fast, we show our belief in God. It is true that we do not see Him, but we know that He sees us. Therefore, we know that He is the only creator of all creatures. When we fast, we do not eat or drink, although we have food and drink because we realize that it is an act of worship that draws us closer to God.
And finally, we wrap up with a note on sports. The Algerian Olympic team tied with its Ghanaian counterpart 1-1 in the home match of the third round of CAN 2023 qualifiers at the May 19th, 1956 stadium in Annaba province here in Algeria. The Algerian squad missed many scoring opportunities, including a penalty shootout. The away fixture between the two teams will be held on the eve of next Tuesday in the Ghanaian city of Kumasi, where the winning team will qualify for the 2023 African Cup of Nations for under 23 years, which qualifies for the Paris Olympics 2024. And with this, our program draws to a close. For more stories, you can check our social media platforms as well as our website. That's it for now. Thank you for watching and take care.